This Kotaku take might be their worst one yet. I'm constantly amazed by how consistently awful Kotaku has become, and even more so by the fact that they're still in operation. If you've been following my channel, or really any channel covering gaming culture, you'll know that Kotaku has always been a questionable presence in gaming journalism. Over the years, they've managed to go from bad to worse, devolving into a publication that thrives on pandering, divisive rhetoric, and downright bizarre content. They've never been a beacon of quality, but now they're almost unrecognisable, doubling down on everything that's made them infamous for all the wrong reasons. From pushing extremist, out-of-touch ideological views to defending dubious organisations like Sweet Baby Inc., a company widely criticised online for acting more like a parasitic entity, leeching off of the modern AAA gaming industry than a legitimate diversity consultancy, Kotaku has continued to demonstrate that it has completely lost the plot. Let's be clear, Kotaku was never a trustworthy resource for gamers, but now it's little more than an echo chamber for fringe ideologies and the strange opinions and worldviews of the weird individuals behind the publication. Even worse, Kotaku seems to have perfected the art of alienating most gamers, the very people who should be visiting their website. Rather than celebrating gaming culture or encouraging meaningful discussion, they regularly opt to lecture their readers, mock them, and churn out narratives that reek of hollow moral posturing rather than anything resembling actual journalism. At this point, Kotaku doesn't even bother pretending to be a credible source of gaming news. They've spiraled into a parody of their former mediocrity, a hollow, desperate shell, pandering to blue sky outrage mobs while blatantly ignoring the gamers who once begrudgingly gave them relevance. Take yesterday's masterpiece, for example. What should have been a harmless puff piece celebrating some fun mobile games. Instead, it turned into a bizarre hit piece attacking American traditions and rejecting family values. You couldn't make this stuff up. Their antics are so unhinged and over the top, they verge on complete farce. What's even more telling is that the author didn't even have the courage to attach their name to it. If they're not proud enough to stand behind their own writing, well, that speaks volumes about the quality and intent of the piece. I am Lady Decade. Hit that subscribe button, as this is Kotaku's insufferable opinion on how to spend Thanksgiving. Oh, Kotaku, Kotaku, Kotaku. Who's worse, you or IGN? Honestly, it's a toss-up. You've got all the professionalism of a teenage ranting on Tumblr, convinced that every word is earth-shattering and worthy of a standing ovation at the Nobel Prize ceremony. From hiring emotionally volatile activists with the self-awareness of a reality TV contestant after a few too many cocktails, to pumping out lazy clickbait nonsense masquerading as journalism, you've truly perfected the fine art of being a laughingstock. And now, in what has become a predictable spiral of pretentiousness, the Trustafarians running Kotaku have once again shown their disdain for the very audience that keeps them relevant. Well, barely. Not only do they posture as though they're somehow intellectually and morally superior to the rest of us, but this time they've outdone themselves, stooping so low as to take aim at Thanksgiving. Speaking of Thanksgiving, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to all of you. Your support means everything to me, and I'm so thankful you tune in each week to hear me ramble about gaming and gaming culture. It really makes it all very worthwhile. To show my appreciation, I've partnered up with Instant Gaming to bring you massive discounts on thousands of video games with deals of up to 90% off. Whether you're into modern AAA titles, indie gems and retro classics, or something in between, there's something for everyone. If you've got a game you've been planning to buy anyway, why not grab it now while the savings are this huge? By using my affiliate links, you not only save a ton of money, but you also support me directly, so it's a win-win. There is no better way we can give thanks to each other than this. You can even get over 50% off on a month of Xbox games, functioning as the perfect gift for yourself or a loved one. Don't miss out. Check out the deals right now and stock up on the games you love. So, yes, Thanksgiving. Kotaku is taking aim at Thanksgiving because apparently the simple act of giving thanks, spending quality time with your family and enjoying a holiday is just too problematic for Kotaku to stomach. Bravo! Truly another feather in their cap of absurdity. With that said, let's take a look at this abhorrent article. The nasty publication, which seems to relish spitting in the face of tradition, smugly published a piece titled "Get Through Insufferable Family Time This Thanksgiving with These Mobile Games." This is a hilariously unhinged title for an article that should instantly raise more flags than a Communist Party Congress in Beijing. It is clear that whoever penned this ugly piece has some serious unresolved issues to project. Calling family time insufferable? Really? Right out of the gate, Kotaku sets the tone with a level of cynicism that makes it sound like a Thanksgiving is some sort of punishment rather than a time to connect with loved ones. It's not just dismissive, it's downright bitter. Twisted, in fact. Labelling family gatherings, those rare meaningful opportunities to connect with loved ones, as insufferable isn't edgy, clever or remotely insightful. It's just another sad example of how these self-important weirdos at Kotaku love to treat relationships and traditions as nothing more than inconvenient chores. The sheer lack of respect for the people who made their lives possible is as revolting as it is predictable. Whether it's their readers, the broader community, or now apparently even their own families, the folks at Kotaku never miss an opportunity to show just how little they care about anyone but themselves. These so-called intellectuals seem to think everyone else is just an obstacle to their inflated sense of superiority. Frankly, it's not just disrespectful, it's outright pathetic. For people who never stop preaching about empathy, connection, and all of those lofty ideals, they sure do an excellent job of embodying the exact opposite. The framing of the entire article is downright delusional, and I have got so much to say about it. For a site supposedly dedicated to celebrating gaming, a medium built on bringing people together, sharing joy and creating lasting memories, this take is nothing short of a slap in the face to their audience. It's not just tone deaf, it's an outright rejection of the core values gaming embodies. If Kotaku can't even muster a shred of positivity for something as universally wholesome as family time, perhaps they should reconsider their career choices. Clearly, spreading bitterness is more their forte than fostering connection or community. The subheading of the article suggests, when you've run out of things to say to your uncle, spend some time with Balatro or Pokemon the card game Pocket. Rather than taking the obvious opportunity to highlight how mobile games could bridge generational gaps or serve as a fun way to connect with family members who might not otherwise understand console or PC gaming, Kotaku, true to form, has chosen the most ridiculous and unproductive path imaginable. Instead of encouraging connection, they're outright advocating for disengagement. The message they're pushing is painfully clear: don't bother talking to your relatives, just whip out your phone and sink further into isolation. The irony is almost too rich. This is the same Kotaku that once wrote positively about family-friendly games and how gaming could bring people closer during the holidays. So, what happened to that, Kotaku? Oh, that's right. It seems they've traded positivity for their newfound expertise in peddling cynicism and alienation, as if something has recently changed in the US political landscape, which I now also have to touch on, as Kotaku brought this up in their miserable article too. Their not-so-subtle dig at relatives with differing political beliefs. One paragraph states, "If you've got a big family but very little to talk to them about, the holidays can see you go from happy to helpless real quick. What are you going to do when Thanksgiving dinner is 2 hours late and you've run out of small talk with that one uncle from out of town who may or may not have voted for the worst person in the world?" What an absolutely pathetic way to frame family gatherings, as if the mere presence of a relative with a differing opinion is some kind of catastrophic burden. It's laughably obvious that the author of this drivel likely spends their days cocooned in an echo chamber, coddled by their own narrow worldview and utterly incapable of handling even the mildest forms of social interaction. Truly, it's a level of fragility that's almost impressive. What embarrassing losers. By whining about possibly running out of small talk with that one uncle from out of town who may or may not have voted for the worst person in the world, Kotaku isn't just being divisive, they're practically begging readers to reduce their family relationships to shallow political litmus tests. It's a level of pettiness that would be laughable if it wasn't so utterly depressing. Claiming Donald Trump is the worst person on earth is such an absurdly laughable statement that it doesn't even deserve to be taken seriously. It completely disregards the existence of actual tyrants and criminals, people responsible for genocides, starvation, slavery and war crimes, while fixating on a man who operated within the confines of a democratic system. The sheer lack of perspective here is staggering, reducing complex global issues to a petty vendetta over tweets and policies. It's the intellectual equivalent of throwing a tantrum and stamping your feet, a lazy and embarrassingly shallow attempt to paint the world's problems in black and white terms. At best, it's emotional overreaction. At worst, it's evidence of someone who simply doesn't know what they're talking about. And let's not forget the journalist who penned such nonsense, proudly putting their detachment from reality on full display. This is Trump derangement syndrome at its finest, an unhinged obsession with turning one man into the embodiment of all evil as though no other villains exist on the planet. It's a level of self-importance delusion that's hard to comprehend. Rather than engaging with the complexities of politics or even acknowledging the broader spectrum of global issues, they've chosen to wallow in their own partisan hysteria. It's not just out of touch, it's downright embarrassing, a desperate cry for relevance from someone who clearly lives in an echo chamber of their own creation. What's truly sickening is how twisted they've become, actively encouraging others to avoid talking to their own family members. It's a level of pettiness and bitterness that speaks volumes about their character, or lack thereof. They've devolved into something utterly vile. Imagine the gall it takes to suggest readers snub a family member who went out of their way to travel a great distance to spend time with loved ones during a meaningful holiday. This is insulting to Kotaku's reader base on so many different levels, particularly at a time when what is meant to be about bringing families together and showing gratitude and thanks. Here in the UK, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but Christmas dinner holds the same importance. In my household, both my husband and I lost our uncles at young ages. Men who left behind families and memories we will always treasure. I'm sure many of you watching this can relate and would give anything for just one more moment with a loved one you've lost. A parent, grandparent, uncle, or anyone who brought love and meaning into your life. Yet, this clown is suggesting we squander these precious bonding moments by burying ourselves in mobile games. Moments like these are a privilege, something many of us, including myself, would give anything in the world to experience again. We only have so many years to make memories with our loved ones, and none of us know if this year might be the last we spend with someone we care about. For example, my husband recently lost his grandmother, and he would give anything to spend Christmas with her one more time. This level of tone deafness is what makes the article not just absurd, but genuinely sinister. To treat fleeting, irreplaceable moments with such disregard speaks volumes about how out of touch and careless this mindset truly is. The sheer privilege and entitlement dripping from this drivel are truly something to behold. To be so painfully out of touch and self-absorbed as to suggest dismissing a family member, someone who may not have been seen in years, over something as trivial as who they might have voted for, isn't just clueless, it's downright disgraceful. That same uncle could very well be a beloved sibling to your parent, someone who brings them immense joy and comfort during a time when family bonds should matter most. But no. In the world, according to Kotaku, it's apparently far more virtuous to sulk in a corner, glued to your phone, than to acknowledge or appreciate the people who actually care about you. Heaven forbid you show a shred of gratitude or emotional maturity. It's astonishing, and not in a good way, that anyone could write this nonsense with a straight face. Game journalists really are the worst people, aren't they? Thanksgiving is a time for coming together despite people's differences and not using those differences as an excuse for retreat. The sheer arrogance of suggesting that it's better to scroll through your phone than engage in a meaningful conversation with family is madness. It's not just dismissive, it's a blatant rejection of the entire purpose of that holiday. Let's be perfectly clear. While social media, online gaming and digital communication have undeniably enhanced our lives, they've also become an all too convenient way to avoid the vulnerability and effort required to build meaningful relationships, a major driver of today's loneliness epidemic. People sometimes need to stop being dicks and actually talk to someone. And what better time to do that than Thanksgiving if you were blessed enough to have that opportunity? Instead of using mobile games as an excuse to avoid family, why not use them as a tool to foster connection? A trivia app, a cooperative game, or even introducing an older relative to Pokemon could spark moments of laughter and understanding. That's what gaming is meant to do when used thoughtfully. Bring people together, not push them further apart. It's glaringly obvious that Kotaku either no longer understands its audience or, more likely, never did. This article is a perfect example of how out of touch they've become, completely missing the mark on what the average gamer actually values. Instead of fostering the joy and camaraderie gaming can bring, Kotaku panders to a cynical, self-centered worldview that glorifies apathy. Honestly, it's embarrassing to watch them sink to this level. It's worth noting how their rhetoric feeds into a larger cultural issue. We live in a world where loneliness and social isolation are at crisis levels. Articles like this normalise disengagement, suggesting that it's not just okay but preferable to withdraw into a digital bubble rather than make an effort to connect with the people in front of you. This is not just bad advice, it's emblematic of a mindset that prioritises convenience and avoidance over effort and empathy. It actively encourages the erosion of social interaction. Thanksgiving is about gratitude, taking the time to appreciate the people in your life, flaws and all. By labelling these moments as insufferable, Kotaku doesn't just dismiss the importance of these relationships. It perpetuates the harmful notion that avoiding minor discomfort is more important than making an effort to engage meaningfully with others. Sure, every family has its quirks, and yes, some relatives might be eccentric, but if you're fortunate enough to have family willing to come together for the holidays, you should count yourself lucky. Many people don't have that luxury and would give anything to trade places with you. Instead of whining or isolating yourself, how about showing some maturity, towing the line, and making an effort to participate? You're not the centre of the universe, and part of being an adult is stepping up and joining in even when it's not your ideal scenario. Worse still, articles like this perpetuate an awful stereotype about gamers, painting them as socially inept, reclusive, and dismissive of real-world connections. Gaming already battles unfair stereotypes, with critics often labelling gamers as antisocial shut-ins. This kind of rhetoric only reinforces those negative perceptions. Instead of promoting gaming as a way to build bridges and foster connection, Kotaku suggests leaning further into isolation. It's a cringe-worthy embarrassment to the gaming community and does absolutely nothing to improve the reputation of gamers in society. If anything, it sets them back even further. Still, when appropriate at least, we all still enjoy our gaming, eh? So don't forget you can give thanks to yourself or a loved one by using my affiliate links to get massive discounts on thousands of games with deals of up to 90% off. Whether you're into modern AAA titles, indie gems or retro classics, you can even get over 50% off on a month of Xbox games, functioning as the perfect gift for yourself or a loved one. Don't miss out, check out the deals right now and stock up on the games that you love. Alternatively, if you want to give thanks to me in a more personal way, you can access my behind-the-scenes cosplay library and more over on Patreon. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.